Well, hello, everybody. So today is a prompt. While I'm going to teach a little bit of, or remind some of you, the basic use of alcohol-based markers. The prompt is just basically a character, could be head, could be full body. We don't go to the edges, and if you remember my holo from Spice and Wolf, where I did the full coloring of markers, I'm going to do this in a different way. I wasn't sure I was going to get to color that picture, so I had inked it. Where this one I'm going to color, and my character is going to be Frankenstein, my own version of Frankenstein. So we can take a classic movie monster and change it up. As you can see, I added a mechanical jaw. Maybe I can do that better and add some bolts. Maybe I'll do that when I go off camera here. Oh yeah, that's going to be much nicer. I put a little dent. You can see parts of his brain, but it's almost like it's a younger version. Yes, there's some stress lines and stuff like that. Is he the villain or the tragic original character from the book? A lot different than the movie version. So I just kind of made my own version. And like for this prompt, you could use something of fan art, something that you really enjoy. Just remember, if you do that, you probably can't always enter in some of the contests because it's not your character. But as learning alcohol-based markers, always do what you love to do. So pick a character, something that has a face, and like I said, you could do full body. I wish I had holo here. This is one of the problems of like doing art in 3 different places. You never have exactly what you need at the time. So since I'm going to color this in marker first, I drew in pencil, but the pencil is a little too dark. So if you've caught the videos where I kind of rolled my kneaded eraser like a snake, I didn't realize I was doing this until somebody kind of caught it off to the side and asked me about it. But if you roll it into a snake like we do with Play-Doh when we're in kindergarten, you can lighten up your picture. Now, I'm going to probably add details with the coloring. These are still my kind of guidelines, and I am going to ink, but I'm going to ink last. I'm going to use my ink pens last. Would this be something I use pen and ink on? Or I should say dip pen and ink? Not really. With the Bristol board, and like when my students do this, they'll have a little smaller piece than this one. Because I just want to expose them to the alcohol-based markers, so as they advance in other classes, they have the background, they got the basics, so they can actually do bigger pictures. When I come back, I will talk about like doing full pictures or even coloring the background completely, the positives and negatives of when you're just doing solid stuff. But guys, I'll be back in a moment. I hope this makes sense about lightening up your picture. And I wasn't going to do a time lapse. I hope I don't regret that. Maybe I should just record a time lapse anyway of me coloring. And that way, if you guys actually want to see it, I can post an individual picture. I'll have to think about that in the next few moments. All right, be back in a moment. what's worse than being rushed to do a video is when you have to do something twice because you left it in time lapse. So, welcome back. I got my picture finished, and as you did not see, I was actually blending a little bit with the skin tone. Since I was basing this on the Mary Shelley Frankenstein, I wanted to kind of take some of her description and add my own, maybe a little steampunkish version with the mechanical jaw and the brain pan, and with the electricity, bloodshot eyes. But like you would imagine the eyes would fill in with blood, but the eyes kind of have that bluish electric glow, yellowing teeth, and stuff like that. So when I just do a character, you notice I didn't color all the background. In an earlier version of a Frankenstein picture, you can see that I did the whole background. It costs, I had to use 2 black markers to do that. So I'm not sure if it was really cost effective. Sometimes it is, where I don't see any other way than not to do the black, where I can bring out the blue. The blue is very rich in my Ghost Rider Ariel here, and having fun with alcohol-based markers. Now, I do have a video that shows how to use alcohol-based markers, but I'm just going to review that a little bit. And the paper I had used was a Soho from Jerry's Artorama. And it's actually kind of thinner than most Bristol board, but the students I had tested said they liked it because it's easier to erase on. It didn't feel like, because the thicker stuff is really carved in and it's harder to erase, where because this is thin, it seems to erase better, but still gives the benefit of Bristol board. Alcohol-based markers are usually brush or chiseled, and these are Copic, so they're actually both. Now, if I bought the Chow version or used their base version, one of them would be fine point. I'm okay with it not being fine point. I have other versions that are fine point that mix very well with Copics. Copics are your most expensive. Any brand of alcohol-based markers usually works with like this. I can do a circular motion. What I'm being very careful of is not saturating the paper where it just like bleeds through. As you can see, it's already doing that. And in an earlier video on alcohol-based markers, I talked about blenders. Blenders, it kind of does make it soak through the paper because it's a little more alcohol and stuff like that. So when you do use the alcohol-based markers, it's a little different than Crayola. You just want to start small, and when you're in a big area, see how I can push down? I like circular motions myself. Not everything can do that, and when I use the chisel tip, I'm very careful. I actually never use the full chisel. Can I do circular motions with this too? Yes, I can. Now, what you want to be careful of is, as you can see, it does blur, but you do get a little dark on that. So like I said, I'm a little careful when I do lighter colors. Let's see, I do have a lighter color here, a yellow. You might barely be able to see this. But as you can see, you don't see a lot of the streaking as you do water-based markers like Crayola. So I hope that makes sense. And then going back to this, bringing it all back together, I inked last, and you see how I got most of the details. It forced me to get most of the details with color, shadowing and stuff like that. The other thing too is I watched my line width. Notice how the outside of it is much thicker. I didn't need to do that since I have black hair over here, but I had black going against. But line width, the line thickness of certain things. Now I may want to do the jaw a little bit more, and just because you're doing an outline doesn't mean that the thickness of the steel goes away. I gotta be a little more smoother. I'm not gonna do the bottom there, and I might not do the whole thing here either, where there's a little bit of a dent. I might just feather it in there. See how I turn it around? And just to make that jaw pop out a little bit, I'm not just a little bit there. There we go. And I have a couple gaps where I didn't fill it in. Now, am I gonna do the top? No, because I think it'll be too much. Line thickness doesn't mean just do the outside of it, where, there's a big part of that, but if you look at manga and stuff, you will find that certain parts are thicker. You don't usually do the details of your face, stuff like that. So that's line thickness, and that's going to be part of this character project. Um, Guys, I hope this makes sense and I'm not just rambling, which I could honestly be doing, but this is important. You are important. And I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.